Greetings, historians, and welcome to another Purple Shirt History. In this video, we'll be going over paper 4. This has been completely redone by Cambridge, splitting it into 2 questions from the previous one, and there aren't any past paper questions. So what we will do is go over the specimen answer that they've provided in the support hub. As always, if you find this useful, please like, comment, and subscribe. It really helps out the channel, and I always look forward to hearing your responses and comments down below. So sit back, relax, grab your notebook, and enjoy the video on paper 4. Woo! Here we are again at the Cambridge Support Hub, and we'll scroll down to 0470 specimen paper, answers paper 4 for examination from 2024. It's the last one in that first group of documents, so download it. And I like to open it in preview so I can mark it up, which is what we'll do today. I haven't marked a sample paper from Cambridge with all of you yet, so this is the first time we'll do it. I just like to get the highlighter up top in preview. If you have a PC, there's numerous different ways. There's Adobe Acrobat, there's Foxit PDF. The latest Microsoft browser has these markup tools as well, which is pretty good. So here are the details for paper 4, alternative to coursework. 40 marks, answer 1 question of the depth study. It's 2 parts now, part A and part B, and it'll be 30% of the overall grade, externally assessed by Cambridge assessors. So let's take a look at these new questions now. It says question 1A, write an account of how the Schlieffen Plan was implemented in 1914. There are 2 sets of questions in this document. I'm just going to go over question 1 with you because it would be a bit repetitive to go over both sets of questions. They're both marked very similarly by Cambridge, so you can check those out, very high markers. It wouldn't have made much sense for them to give out sample answers that were marked very low in order to guide teachers with this new reformatting of the question. So yeah, they're very high-level answers within this document. Part A of paper 4 will focus on assessment objective A01, an ability to recall, select, organize, and deploy knowledge of the syllabus content. And part B will focus on A02, an ability to construct historical explanations using an understanding of cause and consequence, change in continuity, similarity and difference, the motives, emotions, intentions, and beliefs of people in the past. So selecting the highlighter now, I'm going to read the essay and just highlight some things that are pertinent to fulfilling the assessment objectives, that A01. So we see the two-front war to be avoided, thinking Russia would take 6 weeks to mobilize, and Germany attacking neutral Belgium. These are all nice pieces of knowledge that were deployed effectively in that first paragraph. Going on to the second paragraph, it's a bit longer. And this answer is already starting to show good knowledge of what the Schlieffen Plan was, how it was set up. But remember, the question was asking how the Schlieffen Plan was implemented. So this is a bit descriptive, saying what the plan was, what the background of the plan when it was developed in the 1890s by Schlieffen, number of troops in the east to 10%, so that's good. Marching through neutral Belgium and violating Belgian neutrality, which brings Britain into the war. So that implementation of the Schlieffen Plan going through Belgium was very decisive. The treaty between Belgium and Britain went back all the way to, I believe, 1830. So this was a very old treaty, and there was a lot of people wondering if Britain would honor this treaty, and they did, guaranteeing Belgian neutrality, because it was a big threat to have hostile forces, be they French or German, so close to England on the other side of the English Channel. So as I continue to go through here, I see this is very nicely written. There's some data in here. We see the 10% before, 120,000 professional troops. I do like to mix in just dashes of data, of quantitative evidence within the essay. I think that really adds something and shows good knowledge. And then we see the last paragraph here. The Russians surprised the Germans by mobilizing quite quickly. And this led to the breakdown of the Schlieffen Plan, because it was supposed to be all forces to crush France and then swing everybody around to defeat Russia. But the implementation broke down. And the last line of the sentence is very good. It says, it failed, and then it led to trench warfare. So 13 marks out of 15. This is a pretty good answer. It sticks well to the question, fairly well to the question, by talking about the implementation of the plan, going through Belgium, avoiding a two-front war, Eastern and Western fronts. So 13 out of 15. Well-focused and good detail on all main events, implementation. A01 is well done. Good examples to use support. And it's well structured. But the mistakes for this question here, common mistakes, it should stick to the implementation, not about when it was being drawn up, on a big sheet of paper on a map in Berlin or wherever it was. So implementation means they're doing it, not planning it, but it's actually, it's go time. World War I has started, and how is this plan being put into action? So that was a big thing that needed to be addressed. On to the part B now. The more difficult question, because this needs to have explanations. This is the AO2 assessment objective. There needs to be the display of skills that continuity and change, causation, similarity and difference, motives, emotions, intentions, and beliefs of people in the past. So highlighting a few keywords in the question, new weapons and Western Front are the two things that I'm going to be looking for. Nice first sentence. There's a couple different types of weapons that are mentioned. Machine gun, improved artillery, gas, aircraft, and the tank. So there's a nice range of weapons mentioned right off the bat. There's a mention of artillery and the amount of casualties it caused. 60% of casualties were from artillery. And the cause and effect. So the cause and effect was trench warfare and a war of attrition. And another effect of these new weapons was the psychological impact it had on soldiers, shell shock being the term that was coined for the psychological condition that affected soldiers on all sides. So in the beginning sentence of this paragraph, it says the most important impact of the new weapons was their killing power. So this shows the evaluation in the very first sentence of the paragraph. So killing power, the destructive power of these new weapons led to trench warfare, barbed wire defenses. So the Somme campaign, this is a Western Front campaign. So this is within the framework of the question, showing some knowledge. Field Marshal Haig, having some names in there. More quantitative data, 1.5 million shells shot at the Germans over the course of a week. That's a mind-blowing statistic. It really is. Hundreds of thousands of artillery shells every single day. Here's a small mention of reconnaissance aircraft and what they were used for. Targeting for the artillery. Here's some more good terminology that's being used in the essay: no man's land. More numbers of casualties, 60,000 on the British and French side. 1 million casualties in 5 months for this Battle of the Somme. And 80% of the total war deaths for both the British and French armies were caused by these two weapons alone, artillery and machine guns. With such a high number, 4 out of every 5 casualties being caused by machine guns and artillery, it does justify a large portion of the essay to talk about how these weapons impacted the Western Front. Remember, in the very first sentence, tanks were mentioned, airplanes were mentioned. Let's see if the student actually followed through and included them in the essay. It is common for students to mention something in the beginning with the intention of fully exploring how those particular things can answer the question, and that can be a common mistake which you need to warn students about. If you're going to mention it in the beginning of your essay, do not forget about it later on. Make sure that you pick it back up and fully show the depth and the breadth of your knowledge. Just quickly highlighting some nice things in here, some good detail. Battle of the Marne, race to the sea, outflank, Battle of Ypres, stalemate. These are all terms and battles that show very good knowledge of the Western Front in World War I. So these are all the causes, and now the effects need to be explained properly to score high for this assessment objective. It goes from a war of movement to a stalemate, trench warfare, static warfare, whatever you want to call it. Here's some more details from the weapons that were mentioned before. Gas. So actual examples of gas weapons: chlorine and mustard gas. Even though it didn't have a lot of tactical success, it just again added to the impact of the psychology of the soldiers, which is the topic of the next paragraph. So shell shock was one thing caused by the artillery, but the panic of the gas, we're having to wear gas masks and gas attacks. Would have been nice to kind of blend that into the effects, the cause and effects of panic among soldiers. So this essay does show how artillery caused shell shock and gas attacks caused panic and desertions among soldiers. Since this was a completely new form of warfare and shell shock was not understood at the time, there was a lot of court-martials and executions. There was a great Stanley Kubrick movie, Paths of Glory, I think it was called. Check that one out. That's about World War I in France and them court-martialing a soldier. And here we are with the conclusion. Overall, the new weapons had a huge impact on the fighting in the Western Front. That is the evaluation that successfully fulfills the assessment objective, AO2. So that sentence you should have in the beginning of your conclusion. The evaluation is there, but this is a bit of a smallish conclusion. But overall, you can see this is quite a strong essay. Mark awarded 22 out of 25, level 5. In the comments, well-developed explanations and strong examples to support the arguments about impact. Here's a bit of criticism. Some parts of the answers are overly descriptive. But that being said, there is enough in the paragraphs to explicitly address the impact of the weapons on the Western Front. So this essay mentioned 5 different types of weapons. There wasn't anything about the tank and very little about the airplane, but we did see a lot of depth about artillery, the machine gun, and gas attacks. So that was decent enough to get this high mark. But do not just talk about one weapon or 2. You should have at least 3 different types of weapons if you were to get a similar question to that one.